Hi, this is Leyna Bencomo, and I at one point was a software trainer. I call this tape my trial and error case. So I was a software trainer. I trained on the road. I was considered a road warrior. I used to travel every single week to someplace in the United States or Canada, and I taught software, usually 3 to 5 day long classes, and I designed and facilitated, developed, and evaluated all my own classes. I had absolutely no instructional design background or training whatsoever, so everything I did was trial and error. So I wanted to talk about how J. Clark Gardner talks about in the implementation phase. There's 3 things you need to think about. One of them is to train the instructor and then prepare the learners. And then the third one is to arrange the learning space. And that's where I had the most errors, the most problems. So one of the things I used to do is I would mail my handbooks, this was back in the day, my manuals, to wherever I was going ahead of time because they were so heavy to carry. And I didn't think about the fact that the mail is not always consistent. And I got to a class once in Minnesota, and there were no handbooks, no manuals there. So then I had to try to teach the class with absolutely no class material. So that was not fun, and I learned to send them ahead of time, confirm that they arrived. If they didn't, I'd drag the things with me on the plane, so I had an extra copy. And a second thing I used to do, or one of the things I messed up on, was if I did any presentations and counted on some multimedia that was on the internet, sure enough, that would fail, or the internet connection wasn't strong, Wi-Fi connection wasn't working, whatever, and then we'd totally miss the multimedia portion of the class, or it would get delayed. So I learned to download everything I wanted from the internet locally. So I always had a local copy of any videos or whatever that I pulled off the internet. Another thing I tried was I would ship the software to the client, and they were supposed to load it up. They'd tell me, oh yeah, we have IT people. We're going to load the software in the classroom, so everything will be fine. I'd show up and the software would not be loaded, or there was no printer attached, or the computers were incompatible. They didn't have enough of them in the classroom. All kinds of tech issues once again. So I learned to insist with the client that I would be there 1 full day ahead of time. They'd have to pay an extra night for my hotel and all that, and I would load the software myself, probably with the help of the local IT, but I would be there to oversee and make sure, and I tested every single class computer to make sure it was working correctly. Let's see what else. I also had PowerPoints occasionally, and I'd send them, I'd email them or send them to the client, and they'd say, yep, no problem, you don't have to bring any computer, we have that loaded up on our computer locally. And this was back in the day when laptops were very heavy and it was no fun to carry them around. But I learned because often the presentation computer was unavailable, not functioning, or they didn't have my materials, so I learned always bring my own laptop. I also brought my presentation material and any handouts and everything on several USB flash drives so that I had 3 or 4 backups, because you never know. Sometimes if you put them all in your luggage, the luggage gets misplaced or it doesn't come there. I'd put 1 copy in my purse, 1 in my computer bag, something in the luggage, and that way I had things spread out everywhere in case. So arranging the learning space is huge, and my recommendation is always have backups and always cover yourself double and triply. All right, thank you for listening. Bye.